Hi, welcome to my first houseplant video. Since COVID, so for the past 2 years, 3 years or so, I've been getting into houseplants. Historically, I've always been into gardening. I have memories of being a small child in vegetable gardens, but only since COVID have I got into houseplants, and I really am enjoying them, and I'm going to show you a little bit about one of my favorite plants today. Look how pretty this one is. This is Rhaphidophora tetrasperma, or the Mini Monstera. Look how pretty those leaves are. See, it looks like there's a cookie cutter that just took a chunk out of each of the leaves. And it looks like the big Monstera deliciosa that I have over here out of screen. That's a real popular houseplant, but they're not related at all. Even though its common name is Mini Monstera, they are related. They're cousins, but they're not even in the same genus. So they're cousins. But what I want to do today is, this plant is getting really full. I have 5 stems growing in this one, and it's starting to pull over. This plant does best when it climbs. It really wants to climb. It's normally found in the understory of the jungle, and it climbs up trees. So for this to be healthiest and happiest, I want it to go up. So I'm going to build a moss pole. I'm going to show you how to build a moss pole. Let me show you one I've built before. So this is another related plant. This is the cookie cutter plant. See how it similarly has the cool shapes cut out of it? But I built this pole. It's just galvanized, not galvanized, it's PVC coated hardware cloth, 1/4 inch hardware cloth. And then on the inside I have sphagnum moss. And the idea is that the plant can grow up, and that these air roots can find their way inside through the wire and into the moss, and the moss stays moist, or I moisten the moss every week or every couple of days, so that it can grow and thrive up. Part of the reason we want it to grow up is so that it gets better sunlight, better airflow. It'll be a happier, healthier plant when we grow it up. So first thing I'm going to do is disassemble this pot. So it's a little bit daunting, it's a little bit scary to think that I'm going to rip all of those out of there, but it'll be gentler than that. And I've done that with similar plants. These are typically pretty sturdy roots, so if I'm careful, I'm pretty confident that I can separate all 5 of these so that I can repot it into a slightly bigger pot with a moss pole that I'll build with you after this. It's a good time to replant this. Some of the roots are starting to go circular around it. It's not root bound yet, but it's on its way to being. Alright, there you have it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and they grew them all from nodes. I can tell that now, and they all have really good root growth. One thing I found, an additional positive, is there's a 6th node in here with some roots, with good roots, but no new growth. So I'm definitely going to replant this and expect some new growth. Actually, it looks like it is starting to spit out new growth right there. See that little tip right there? Let me get closer. That little tip right there is going to be new growth. So I really have 6 stems, which is pretty dope. Alright, next step is making the moss pole. Let's go out onto the deck because I'm using pre-moistened, it's actually soaking wet right now, sphagnum moss, so it's going to be a messier project than even this was. So let's move out there and build that step. Alright, here's another example of a previous moss pole that I've built, except for the plant that was on this died. Now I could totally use this one, but it's half the length. When I made this one, I cut the same, so it's about 2.5 inch diameter, and if you do circumference equals 2 pi r, you'll figure out that the circumference of the wire should be about 7.8. I round up to 8 inches. So it's going to be a little bit more than 2.5 inch diameter, but this is by 2 feet. The whole length is by 4 feet. So because I know this plant is quick growing at one, fingers crossed, hoping mine is going to be quick growing. I know it won't grow quickly at first because it damaged some of the roots and it's been transplanted and it's in a new place with probably more light than it was used to getting before. It's not going to grow fast initially, but it will grow fast. I've seen these 8, 10, 12 feet long up until somebody's ceiling and growing past their ceiling. So 2 feet ain't going to cut it. I'm going to make a new one that I've never built before, a 4 foot long one, but it's going to be the same diameter. So this is 4 feet by 8 inches, and it's not galvanized, you keep calling it galvanized. It's the PVC coated, so it doesn't rust and so it looks prettier, PVC coated hardware cloth. And inside my bucket here, I have water and sphagnum moss. I also need zip ties and a scissor for cutting the zip ties. So all I'm gonna do is pick up a handful at a time. Oh, that's a lot. Wring it out and put it in there. Don't fill too tight because we still have to pinch this closed and zip tie it together, so you don't need to fill it too tight. Alright, this is filled to my liking, so now I'm going to take out, I can't find my small zip ties, so I have to use these bigger ones, but at least they're heavier duty. So I'm going to start just with one in the middle. Let's pull this together. That's all there is to it. Do one in the middle. I'm going to put more in, but for now I'm just doing this to secure it roughly evenly. Alright, there you go, the biggest moss pole I've ever made. 4 feet long, but I think it's going to work really well. I have a little bit larger of a pot to use to make sure its base is still stable so it doesn't tip over, but it looks great to me. I can't imagine why any climbing plant wouldn't love this. Let's go back inside and put it all together. The soil I'm using is also homemade. I used a base of just a high-grade potting soil, maybe about 25%. Then I added worm castings, I added extra vermiculite, I added 2 different sizes of cork bark so that it's really airy, really loose, so it's really nice, quick draining soil. Alright, assembling is a little bit complicated because it's one of the times where you wish you had more than just 2 hands. Because I want this to stay in there straight up. Let's just put some soil at the bottom. Then I also want the roots of each of my stems to be all the way down there. So I don't want to just fill this all the way up with soil. I want to put some soil in it. And get a clump of rooted plant. Put it in there. Now I'm just going to take those 5 or 6 stem cuttings and place them evenly around the pole. So you can see the moss pole is right in the center, and all around it I've evenly spaced 5 nice cuttings plus the 1 tiny little cutting. But now they're still all drooping over to the side. That's what you need double-sided Velcro for. So what I'm going to do, this stuff is great, you use it to stake up plants, it wraps around itself. So it's sticky on one side, you know, the opposite things are on each other. So you just wrap it over and make a loop. So I'm gonna push these up. Here, I can probably pre-cut this. I cut it a little bit long for the first one just because the first one's going to be the hardest. Alright. That looks pretty cool. Let's bring you in for a closer look here. I'm actually just going to pick this up. Oop, should I? Now all the way around, the plant is going to start rooting into the moss pole. And even like right here's a perfect example. It has these long air roots. I'm just going to push them right inside. Now they're going to keep growing inside of the moss. Alright, last step is watering it in, giving it a really healthy water. I'm going to do that outside so I could overwater it for the first time and get it really, really soaked and saturated. I love it. It's going to grow in beautifully. We're in late spring, early summer right now, so this thing is just going to take off. I love what this area is becoming with all the indoor plants. It's really a lot of fun. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you liked it, subscribe and watch some more.